John, for an audience that may not know, can you let them know how many Super Bowls you've covered and how long you worked at the Chronicle?
Oh, gosh, guys. I worked at the Houston Chronicle 47 years. I covered NFL 45 years. I retired 2 years ago from the Chronicle so I could, number one, get my pension. Number two, I can do endorsements for my radio station. Newspapers don't allow that. And I'd had to turn down quite a few through the years because I've been doing local radio here since 1976. So right now, I write 5 columns a week. I do 6 appearances on the Texans flagship. And one of the things I love doing is do 3 Utopia football podcasts, and then I do local TV and Mattress Mac, our foremost bettor in the U.S. He and I do a video once a week that we put on our social media sites about what's going on in sports. And then I do weekly shows in Nashville, Knoxville, Las Vegas, Houston, Waco, Austin, and San Antonio. Thanks for asking. By the way, my columns that I write on sportsradio610.com, as Mattress Mac says, when you buy furniture during the day, you deliver it tonight. It's free. No paywall.
Sportsradio610.com, John McClain. Let me start. You've covered a lot of special. Free 90 free. You've covered a lot of special athletes in your 47-plus years in Houston. Help us understand C.J. Stroud.
I've covered Warren Moon when he was a rookie from Canada in '84. And Warren, of course, went on to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Covered Steve McNair 2 years when he was a 3rd overall pick in '95. And covered some veterans. David Carr was first overall pick for the Texans in '02, but he washed out. But Deshaun Watson, when the GM at that time traded up to the 10th spot to get him, we didn't have any idea he was going to be as good as he was so fast. And in 2020, he had a great season. Team was terrible. It's the last time he played worth a darn because of all his off-the-field issues and the sitting out of season and then the trade. But we knew during the season Watson was special, and we knew early in the season Stroud was special. I was asked on my show here today, would I say that Stroud is better than Watson? I said no, because Watson had a great rookie year until he blew out his knee, and then Watson did it for multiple years. He beat Buffalo in the playoffs there, and so Stroud is, he's hoping to have 2 more games at least. But if it comes to an end at Baltimore, which of course it should, he will have had a great rookie year that lasted longer than Deshaun Watson, and now he's got to keep getting better to be the best quarterback. Now, if they were to win this game and upset the Ravens, then I think it would automatically catapult him into the best rookie quarterback in franchise history because he would have gone where nobody else has. If the Texans were to upset the Ravens, it would be the first time that Houston's had a team in the AFC Championship game since the Love You Blue Oilers after the 1979 season.
Wow, impressive run that Stroud has put together. John, for people that may not be from the area, from Conroe down to League City, tell us what the atmosphere has been like and the support for this team. I know the Astros have been great, but it seems like in the press conferences there's a concerted effort from D'Amico Ryan, C.J. Stroud, and other players. They acknowledge the fan base almost more so than any other team I've ever seen.
Well, first of all, we were football town forever. And then when the Texans got bad and they brought in Bill O'Brien, even though they won, people didn't like Bill. It wasn't where the fans were celebrating and really behind the team like they are now. And then the Astros, with 7 consecutive appearances in the American League Championship Series and 2 World Series wins and another 2 losses, they've taken over the city. But right now, because the Astros haven't done squat in the offseason, and the Texans, it feels like it's the worm is turning. It's turning into a football city again. And the reason that D'Amico Ryans acknowledges the fans, when he was here as a player, they got more support than they have this year because people are a hard sell. They want to make sure it's you can come back to this organization. They're not going to let them down again. They act like they're the Lions. Well, the Texans beat Buffalo in the wild card game in January 2020. So it's not like they've been starved for years. They just had enough controversy and bad people in the organization where it feels like it's been 30 years. So people embraced D'Amico because they loved him as a player. He was a team leader. The media respects him. Everything coming out of that organization now has been positive, not just because of winning. It started to happen during the season when people, okay, so this is what Nick Caserio had in mind when he was told to totally rebuild the team, and when he made trades to get Will Anderson Jr. right after C.J. Stroud, and that's worked out great. And then, of course, Ryans has been better than anybody could have imagined in his first year. First-year head coach, first-year quarterback, first-year offensive coordinator and play caller. It's very unusual.
Are we nervous about losing Bobby Slowick? You mentioned the first-year play caller, the offensive coordinator. He is interviewing, John, with other teams.
Oh, yeah. You've got Tennessee and Washington have reached out, and they have general managers that worked with him for 6 years in San Francisco. And Seattle's reached out. I think 4 teams have reached out so far. And here they knew they were going to lose him once they started winning. But they're hoping that Bobby Slowick will do like D'Amico Ryans, Ben Johnson, Kevin O'Connell, get interviews after their first year as the hot coordinator and say, you know what, I need a second year in that position before I step out into the head coaching world. So we're hoping that Bobby Slowick does that because he saw how well it worked out for D'Amico Ryans. But what they don't want him doing is going into the AFC South and having to go up against him. But they've groomed a guy, Rod Johnson, former quarterback, who they hired. He's also a first-year quarterback coach, and he's done a great job with Stroud. Case Keenum, their third quarterback, has done a great job working with Stroud, mentoring him. So I'm assuming if they lose Slowick, they'll just elevate Johnson. Like Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers, you better have a bunch of good personnel people and a bunch of good position coaches ready to be elevated because the best organizations get rated.
John, when you guys played Baltimore in week 1, they gave up 5 sacks. This is a completely different offensive line than what we saw earlier in the year because of injuries and other things. Tell people where they're at this point from an offensive standpoint, not just Stroud, but the emergence of Nico Collins. Schultz has had a good year minus the drop last weekend. Singletary's come on and really done a great job as well.
They started 0-2, and then they went 11-5. And in that first game against Baltimore, there's going to be 6 different starters. The Texans' offensive line was still isn't very good, although it's coming off its best game by far. Dominated Cleveland. Laramie Tunsil had a great game. Totally dominated Myles Garrett. Garrett just like he didn't even show up. And they've used 4 left tackles, 4 left guards, 5 centers, 1 right guard, and 4 right tackles going back to training camp from the starters. And so they finally seem to have adjusted to the backup guys who've been forced to play at center, left guard, and right tackle. And so they've been better, not really good at run blocking. They're 6-1 when the team rushes for 100 yards, 3-0 when Devin Singletary rushes for 100 yards, but they struggle to rush for 100 yards because they're just not a good run blocking team because they've struggled to adapt to Bobby Slowick's zone running scheme, which was exact opposite of what they did. They're on their 5th line coach in 5 years. And Chris Strasser, you guys know that kind of instability up front can't do anything but have a negative effect on the offense.
John, we just have about a minute left, so Baltimore is going to be a 9.5 point favorite. Let me ask you this way. Can the Houston Texans win straight up in Baltimore?
Well, sure, they could win. C.J. Stroud's capable of doing anything. I thought they'd get beat by Cleveland. They got their brains beat in by Cleveland 3 weeks ago on Christmas Eve, and then they came out and did the same to the Browns. They're a different team than the first game, but so were the Browns. That was Todd Monken's first game as offensive coordinator. Everybody asked me who I'm picking here. I say Ravens 27-20, and they said, well, good. You picked the Browns to win, too. That means the Texans are going to win.
Hey, you can read John McClain at sportsradio610.com. How much does it cost, John?
Doesn't cost a thing. It's free.
free. And follow John on Twitter at McClane_on_NFL. John, you're the best. Thank you very much.
Guys, it's my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. That is that's an institution. Dustin, you know that. Amal, you know that from being around the sport long enough. He covered sports for the Houston Chronicle for 47 years. And I don't know if he ever missed a Super Bowl.
I like, if you polled, from my perspective, sports radio producers from around the country, and you said who is the most professional, who is the best on air, and who is just like the easiest to deal with, but all-encompassing, great overall radio guest, I'm willing to bet if you polled 1,000 radio producers, John McClain would be in the top 2.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.